It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Good afternoon, everybody. Brian Wilson back in the chair and on the air this Monday, the 7th day of August. It is 8/7, and we're glad that you're with us. We got Mac Maury over there in the newsroom, and we got Chris Weber in the control room. All the A-team is in their place as we bring you news and information you can use. And if you're on I-65 headed, what is it, north?
Yes.
I would say,
It's
oh
actually
my God.
both directions
Well,
closed now. Yeah.
Just bad. That's just really bad. I mean,
Yeah. North side.
you're
of
having
town.
a rough day, and hang in there. Hopefully, while you're sitting there stuck in traffic, we can while away the hours together. What's the longest you've ever been stuck in traffic?
I've been in it for probably 2+ hours at one point, barely moving, and that was I-75 north of Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think it was in D.C. They're about like we are when it comes to handling snow. They just don't do it well, and everybody tried to get out of town, and it was hours and hours and hours, and one of those things where some people actually just got out of their cars and walked on.
Just said, forget it.
I'm close enough. I'm going to walk. I'm just going to abandon the car, and I'm going to go home.
Come back
I'll
again
deal with
later.
this tomorrow. Come back and deal with this tomorrow. Yeah. It was horrible. I want to start off with a story here today. Heard about it on this weekend. Been texting a bunch of people about it. The TimesFreePress.com has this story. Tennessee Republican State Executive Committee members adopted a resolution that encourages Governor Bill Lee to drop his planned August 21st special legislative session, where the Republican governor hopes to bolster his state's gun safety laws, despite most GOP leaders' opposition. One committee member charged in the meeting at a Mount Juliet hotel that the gathering will put House and Senate Republican members in danger with crazies from outside Tennessee flooding the state capitol. So they came away with a resolution. Well, it's all one. We're all friends here, but making a strong recommendation to the governor to give up on these special session that is scheduled for August 21st of this year. If you've been listening to my show, you know that I am long been holding the opinion that we don't need to have this special session. I mean, my main reason for it is that, it's gonna become an S show. That's all it is. It's really going to be a mess. The Democrats are going to target it. They're gonna come in and they're going to raise unmitigated hell. You're gonna see the Justin Jones and all of that stuff. It's going to happen again. It's just going to be a nightmare. And I think we've actually even we've actually heard a phone call where there was a discussion about how those people who oppose Republicans in general are going to come and raise hell, and that there may even be some people in the audience who are armed. That's what they said. So when I start hearing all of that, and I add into it the fact that we don't have the manifesto from the Covenant shooter, which is what this is all being, all being done for. We don't have the manifesto. How in the world are we going to craft legislation that will have any meaning at all unless we understand in a more complete way what happened at the Covenant School shooting? And the manifesto is going to be tied up for a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, some people have said. So let me just say, for me, I think the executive committee is correct. We should not have this special session on August 21st. Are there things that could be done? Yeah. But I reject the idea completely that, something has happened and people are upset, so we must do something to save our cushy jobs. People are demanding that we do something. Well, I don't think that's the environment in which great legislation is written. Government doesn't act, it reacts, and generally when it does react, it overreacts. And I think that's where we may be headed. And so, with all due respect to Governor Lee, who I have a lot of respect for, I would just simply say, Governor, call this off. The executive committee is against it. I'll be honest with you, everybody I've talked to in the state legislature, and I've talked to a bunch of people over the last few weeks, they look at it and they go, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to come in. We're not going to pass the governor's, he calls it something else, but many people look at it and say, it's a red flag law. They're not going to pass that. It's not going to happen. I don't think the speaker would miss a beat if you said we're not going to do it. I don't know. We're going to talk to the speaker soon. I don't think the Senate would lose a bit of sleep over not having a special session. And I just don't think it's the environment in which great legislation could be written. So, again, I think that the executive committee has it right. By the way, I'd be interested to know. Let's go ahead and open up the phone, 615-737-9986. Would you rather do this, or would you rather just wait until the next regular session? I am of the opinion we would do better if we just waited till the next regular session. Will we have the manifesto? No, we probably won't, but at least we'll have more information than we have today. And there's nothing that is happening right now I don't see anything that they're talking about doing that is so urgent that it couldn't wait until January. So no, we save a lot of taxpayer money. We would not be running headlong to craft legislation just because we feel we should be doing something. That's not the way it works, or not the way it should work. Oh, well, we should be doing something. Bodies get together and they do things. So 615-737-9986. Love to know if you have any strong feelings about this. The story goes on. Immediate efforts to reach a Lee spokeswoman by text were not successful. Lee, a Republican, announced in early May he would call the special session after GOP members adjourned without addressing his call to bolster state firearms law following the deadly March 27th gun assault on a private Christian elementary in which 3 children and 3 adults were killed. The governor and his wife, Maria, were friends of the headmaster. The 28-year-old shooter, Audrey Hale, had once been a student at the school. She was under a doctor's care, authorities have said. I think Tennesseans not only are proud of, but understand the Second Amendment, said one member of the executive committee to the Chattanooga Times Free Press after the committee wrapped up. They are proud and they agree with the Constitution of the United States. I feel at this point it's really emotion as opposed to rational and reason. Boy, do I agree with that. Let's get this person on the line. My concern, and a lot of other concern, is that some of the proposals we heard really violate due process of law, and that is a fundamental concern when you start talking about potentially infringing on people's constitutional rights. The need needs to be thought out over a longer period of time. Yes, we are in absolute sync on that. I think that's the right way to go. I understand that people sometimes act out of emotion when something horrendous has happened, as has happened in Nashville. But really, to friends of his, but I understand that, and the natural reaction is to want to do something now. But like I said, when you're talking about constitutional rights at the end of the day, you need to take the time to think that out. I would say you need time to let the emotions cool. So, I say we don't do it. Let's save the money. You're not going to get what you want, Governor. Nobody's going to pass that bill that you want. There may be some things that I've talked to the speaker, and he said, yeah, there's some things we can do around the edges. I don't know. I just feel like we're rushing headlong into doing something driven by emotion that will become an absolute chaotic affair because of the protesters and what they're likely to do in this whole process. No good comes from it. Let's just go push it off till January and call it a day. What do you say? Nobody really wants to come back to Nashville in the middle of August anyway. Caitlin in Nashville, you're on with Brian Wilson on the drive. So, Caitlin, what's your thought about all this?
Well, I have a couple. We didn't get the manifesto, and the police chief rejected money to place security at the school. So what's the point? Also, law-abiding citizens are the only ones following the laws. Criminals don't follow them. So can we start enforcing the current laws that we have before we add new ones that we're not going to enforce? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Wait until January.
All right. Thank you much, Caitlin. Appreciate it. David in Hendersonville. David, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, David?
How you doing, Brian?
Doing great.
I don't believe we need to have it. The governor knows, I'm sure by now, that there has been been threats against the conservatives when they have this, and he wants to go ahead and do it. He's putting people's safety at risk, and I'm not happy with him anyway. But if he does this, I believe he's gonna lose my vote.
Well, I think he's a lame duck governor at this point, right? He can't run for re-election. Right. Yeah, 2 sessions. So this is his second run. So that's it. I mean, and this is what I think. This is one of the things that I think you get, by the way, with term limits. You get somebody in there, and if they're going to have to run again, or they care about running again, or they have some expectation of running for higher office, which I don't think this governor does, then you always want to keep your electorate happy. But then, when you're in term limits and you're termed out, what are they going to do? Are they going to impeach him? No, I don't think they're going to impeach him. I mean, they can't do that. But he can do whatever he wants to do, whether it pleases the voters or not. And that's why I have some concerns about term limits, although I think we have term limits to some degree. Longer story, another conversation for another time. Jim and Hermitage, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Jim? Jim, are you there?
I am.
Go ahead.
To the red flag laws, no. The session, no. And I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Just south of the airport, south of the Air National Guard, there's a historical. This is a formal site of the insane asylum. We need to build another one and put people like the 28-year-old in there.
Yeah, mental health is where I think is the hardest thing to get at. How do you determine who is mentally, ill, and how do you determine if someone is about to hurt themselves or others? It's a tough call, but sometimes the problem is that it's happening, and family doesn't want to acknowledge it, and I think that's where it gets to be a difficult thing. Look, these are not easy issues, but I think you're right on one thing, and that is if we focus on people, finding people who are mentally ill and getting them the help that they need. There's so much that can be done these days that we would go a lot further, probably. I got time just for one more. Jim in Nashville. Jim, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say?
I say zip code 37205. If it had not been 37205, this would not be an issue. And I agree totally with you that we need all the information. You can't go forward with a case unless you have all the information. So
right.
To me, it's 37205. If any other zip code, it would never have been an issue.
Okay, Jim, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It is now 21 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it costs before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. In conjunction with a high deductible insurance plan, this could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. Now, at Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They will see you the same or the next day. There are no long wait times or crowded waiting rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible, and it is a military vet-owned practice. All of these are reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast and Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
A terrible day for I-65 North drivers if you're in Goodlettsville. Some abortion news, and Pope Francis meets child sex abuse survivors. Those stories and more 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 26 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. Mac Morey in the newsroom doing his job so ably. And then there is Chris Webber, who's just in the control room. Also doing his job. Everybody. I'm just messing with you. So if you were to make a guess, guys, over which vehicle is stolen most in America, you're driving a car, you want to know, is this something that the that the people who are stealing vehicles want? What would you think would be the number one vehicle that the National Insurance Crime Bureau says people like to steal when they steal?
I'm going to guess it's got to be something that there's a lot of on the road anyway.
Yep.
I'm going to say
that's a good thought.
the Ford F-150.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm going sedan. I'm going to go Honda Accord.
That's a good one.
You have picked, both of you have picked something that's in the top four.
Ooh,
The number one most frequently stolen vehicle in the U.S. in 2022, according to the NICB, was the Chevrolet pickup full size.
Silverado.
Pretty close,
I was
Weber.
surprised by that. I thought it was the Ford. The Ford is number two.
Okay.
And then you go to the ever-present Honda Civic.
The Civic.
And then the Accord.
Mm-hmm.
That would be number four. I'm turning the page here.
Got to be a Toyota Camry in there somewhere.
Camry's got to be up there.
Hyundai Sonata is number five.
Huh. Well, that's because you can steal them with a USB flash drive.
The Hyundai Elantra. The Kia Optima. I would have never guessed that. Somebody said the Toyota Camry, number 8. And the number 9 is the GMC pickup, full size. And for some reason, the Honda CRV.
A lot of those out there, too, yeah.
In 2022, reports of vehicle thefts rose 7% over the previous year.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big jump.
Approximately one motor vehicle is stolen every 32 seconds in the United States, which adds up to more than 1 million vehicles stolen last year. Wow.
Well, I guess I can feel a little bit better. I don't have any of the top 10 vehicles, so that's a bonus for me.
Now, here is Tennessee, slightly different. Chevrolet, number 1. Chevrolet pickup, number 1. Number 2, the Hyundai Elantra. Number 3, the Ford pickup. Number 4, the Hyundai Sonata. Wow, this one I never would have guessed. Number 5, the Infiniti G37 Coupe.
Huh. Interesting.
Kia Optima, Nissan Altima, Honda Accord, Nissan Maxima, and the Dodge Charger.
Oh, yeah.
Looking muscle car, right.
A lot of those
Kentucky,
roaming around.
Yeah.
Kentucky, it was the Ford, the Chevrolet pickups, Camry, Malibu. The Chevrolet Malibu, really? Kentucky, you can do better. In the cars that you steal, you can steal a lot better. Ford Fusion, Hyundai Sonata, Honda Accord, Dodge pickup full size, the Nissan Altima, and the Toyota Corolla. 6.4 billion lost to vehicle theft in the U.S. in 2019. See, I would have thought they get most of them back, but I guess maybe they don't.
Yeah, I mean, they got to end up somewhere. I would think the majority of them are stolen just to steal them, not because they actually want the vehicle, like to send it to a chop shop or something. That doesn't seem like that would happen, but maybe it does.
I don't know. I need to find out more, but I thought it was interesting that pickup trucks. I wouldn't have thought. Well, I wouldn't have thought of all the things you're going to steal that you would steal a pickup truck. But I guess there's so many people who love pickup trucks in this part of the world.
A lot of them out there,
me included.
That's right.
That's what I drive is a F-150. So I'm going to now have to start thinking more carefully.
Watch where you park.
It's pretty easy to keep your car from being stolen. Let's just you park it, you lock it, you take the keys with you. You don't leave it running because it's hot or cold outside. That's where it happens most of the time here, is that people will have their car stolen because it's too hot and I don't want to turn off the air conditioning.
Yep.
So I'll just leave the car running, or it's too cold in the winter and I don't want to get cold. I want to be warm when I get back in. And so you run inside the little convenience store and then somebody grabs your car.
That's what happens.
That's what happens. I'm telling you, so it's pretty easy to stop it. 31 minutes past the hour, 3:00.
.331, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. No tornado watches in effect here in Middle Tennessee, now all in East Tennessee. I-65 northbound, been a nightmare all day from exit 104 to exit 108 in Goodlettsville. That delay right now running about 2 hours. You had a fallen over tanker truck there, causing some serious delays, and then a crash into the trees in the middle of those two exits, causing that backup. Traffic weather report coming up in a few minutes. Ohio voters will decide tomorrow whether to make it tougher to amend the state's constitution. If it passes, it could impact the state's abortion laws. Ann Flaherty in Washington with more.
It's a crucial vote in the Buckeye state of Ohio. Republicans want voters to agree that changing its state constitution should require 60% support instead of a simple majority. If the measure passes, it will make it much harder for Democrats to amend the state's constitution this fall to guarantee a right to abortion. The effort is part of a broader initiative by Republicans to keep liberal, citizen-led proposals off state ballots.
And Pope Francis returning to Rome following a 5-day trip to Portugal, during which met with child sex abuse survivors. Inestela Catera traveled with the Pope and filed this report.
Pope Francis reflecting on his meeting with 13 victims who were sexually abused as children by members of the Catholic Church in Portugal. Speaking with abused people is a very difficult experience, the Pope told reporters aboard the papal plane, but it also does me good, not because I like to listen, but because it helps me take on their load. An independent commission in Portugal found close to 5,000 boys and girls were sexually abused by members of the Catholic Church, mostly priests, since the 1950s. The pontiff says the Catholic Church needs to grab the bull by its horns when it comes to child sex abuse.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, if you've lived around here for quite a while, you know that Europix has been in Middle Tennessee. It's been the place to take your European car for repairs for some 24 years now. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. Well, I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, they are now proud to announce the 5th location for Europix in Mount Juliet, on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Europix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now in Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer to grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. At Europix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call this number, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. I'm taking notes and picking up slack. Is that the right way?
Touring the facility.
Touring the facilities and picking up slack. That's right.
Some people get that.
That was on my playlist out at the pool the other day, and people were over there. I said, "Do you know this song?" And I was surprised how many people didn't know that song by Cake.
Yeah, a lot of people go Cake. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I can't remember how I found out about it.
I think that song was in the movie Shallow Hal.
Really?
I think it was. Yeah.
It was also the theme song for that show called Chuck on NBC.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was in there.
I didn't know that.
I think that's right. One way or the other, it's a good song. The title of it is called "Short Skirt, Long Jacket."
That's right.
That's what. I want a girl with good allocations. I want a girl who gets things done. I forget all of the lyrics on it, but it's good. It's a good song. I like it. I don't know why I'm talking about it so much endlessly, but I like it. All right, there we go. Hunter Biden world, we got some new developments. I mean, it's a drip, drip, drip kind of day. In a minute, I'm going to pull back and talk about, this is the problem with a story that has the drip, drip, drip to it. It's hard to know because there's just a little drip here and a little drip here. Occasionally, you need to sort of step back and see what all the little drips have done to change the story over time. And then, you find out, wow, this story is really getting pretty interesting. Here's some more drips. Hunter Biden's longtime business partner visited the Obama White House and the vice presidential residence more than previously known. And this has to do with the guy, I think, Schwerin. Hunter Biden's former friend and longtime business partner visited the Obama White House and then Vice President Joe Biden's residence dozens of times between 2009 and 2016. That's likely to make him the next target of the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Hunter Biden's foreign business deals. Fox News Digital previously reported that Eric Schwerin had visited the White House and vice presidential residence and Observatory Circle at least 27 times during Joe Biden's vice presidency. However, a more extensive review found that Schwerin actually made at least 36 visits during that same time frame. Schwerin, who is the founding partner and managing director of Hunter Biden's now dissolved Rosemont Seneca Partners, when he was appointed by then-President Obama to the Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage Abroad, an independent U.S. government agency, in early 2015. Obama reappointed him to the commission in January 2017. Let me just stop for a moment. Why don't we, if you want to find a way to make government better, why don't we get rid of crap like this? The Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage Abroad. There's a commission. Presidents appoint people to sit on this commission. What the hell do they do? In the grand scheme of things, is this really where we ought to be spending our money? But, they got to find things for their friends to do, and they got to reward their friends, so they have all of these different things going on. And maybe we just ought to go through and do away with all presidential commissions. Is there a presidential commission on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? I mean, come on, it gets ridiculous. According to White House logs, Schwerin attended the reception along with Devin Archer, Hunter Biden, and Sebastian Momtazi, an associate who worked with Archer in Rosemont. Archer was also on the Burisma board with Hunter Biden, and Momtazi had been a Burisma, had Burisma.com email addresses, according to emails provided and reviewed by Fox News Digital. So, I mean, you're getting to find, and the big picture of this story, rather than get off into the weeds and all of this stuff, and the big picture is, again, a lot of people who were tied up in Hunter Biden's illegal business dealings, I think, were actually, quite familiar with the White House. They were at the Naval Observatory, where the vice president lives in D.C. a lot. How is it that the vice president didn't know? Well, the fact of the matter is we're getting more and more information to suggest he did know. He did know. This is from justthenews.com. The Silk Road paved with cash. Court records confirmed that millions flowed to the Biden family from China. Let me pull up the first page. In the end, it really was a Silk Road of money that flowed from China to the Biden family coffers, despite Joe Biden's insistence to the contrary. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware, which charged Hunter Biden with tax and gun crimes last month, released to a federal court last week a now scuttled plea deal that affirmed that the presidential son got millions himself from Chinese sources in 2017-2018. That included money from the Chinese energy firm as well as legal payments from a Chinese executive convicted of bribery. I mean, he's dealing with the business thugs all over the world. If there's a bad actor, Hunter Biden was out there trying to take money. The records confirm reporting from investigative author Peter Schweitzer's book Red Handed, Just the News Stories and Investigation by Congress that date to 2020, when Senators Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley revealed banker transfers from Beijing to Biden accounts. The revelations raise questions whether Biden would be sympathetic to the concerns of other nations or individuals based on previous relationships. Well, here's the story, though, that you need to sort of pull back. This is from thespectator.com, and it's just sort of bringing everything up to speed and pulling back a little bit to look at the larger issue. Devin Archer, a former friend and business partner to Hunter Biden, testified Monday as part of the House Oversight Committee's investigation into the Biden family. Archer made several key claims, including that Hunter was brought onto the board of Ukrainian energy company Burisma because of his familial connections, and that Hunter then put Vice President Joe Biden on the phone to his business associates at least 20 times to demonstrate his access to the highest levels of U.S. governmental power. Archer's testimony complicates the insistence from President Joe Biden, the White House, and their friends in the media that President Biden was oblivious to his son's business dealings taking place in places like Ukraine and China. I've never discussed with my son or my brother or with anyone else having anything to do with their businesses, period. But recent news headlines tried to tell a different story. Hunter tried to sell his family name, but Joe Biden never talked business, says ex-associate. The Washington Post reported. See, there's still mainstream media out there trying to clean this up for the Biden family. Because why? Well, because they don't want Donald Trump. That's what it's about. But anyway, the story continues to drip, drip, drip. And it continues to become, the big picture is this. Hunter Biden was doing business with a bunch of miscreants around the world. He was bringing in money, and it was going through a bunch of shell corporations to different members of the Biden family. Right, that ought to be enough. Maybe you can't pay off the big guy, although I think they will find evidence that there was money sent directly to the big guy. But even if you don't pay off the big guy, if you're enriching his family, then how is that a bad thing? I mean, what happens down the line? Okay, maybe money gets set aside. Maybe money gets put back. Maybe it's sitting in a Swiss bank account somewhere. So that when Biden finally ends his political career, it will be returned to him quietly as a family transaction. I don't know how it's all going to play out, but one way or the other, it's beginning to look very bad for Joe Biden. He's got a lot of things to explain for. He has not ever, budged. I mean, the only thing that happened was they went from saying he didn't discuss business to saying he's never involved in business. Well, I mean, it's very clear that he discussed business, very clear that he was attending dinners and luncheons and made phone calls and had people over to the Naval Observatory. It goes on and on and on. And it's just a matter of time, I think, until the House Oversight Committee gets this thing all locked up. In fact, I think they're very close. Will there be an inquiry, an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden's activities? Yeah. I think what the House Oversight Committee is doing is not aimed at Hunter Biden. That's just, you got to go through some of that to get what you're really looking for. I think they're going to be able to make the case that the current president of the United States was taking bribes, and his family was taking bribes in exchange for favorable consideration when he was both vice president and I guess even when he was out of office and still had connections. And even now, is he compromised is the question. I think there's a very strong case to be made that he was, and I think the House Oversight Committee is getting really, really, really close to buttoning this thing up. Will it be picked up in the Senate? That's a whole different matter. Will it actually come to impeachment charges? I think yes, and we're continuing to watch it. But again, don't be sort of dismayed by the drip, drip, drip. You have to look at the drip, drip, drip and understand that if you just have something that drips, 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 next thing you know, you got a gallon of water. Next thing you know, you get 10 gallons of water. Next thing you know, a little drip can go a long way if it just continually happens. And I think when we have the drip, drip, drip of these stories, that we are not far from getting to the bottom of it. I think we're getting very close. By the way, this could be an interesting week because we're supposed to get some more bank records. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. In times of market and economic volatility, gold and silver just might be the safe haven you're looking for. It's Brian Wilson for Nashville Gold and Coin, and if you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand so you can touch it, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's the place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. Now, they also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth? Well, I brought in a few silver coins I had in a shoebox, been in my sock drawer for years. Turned out to be worth $1,652. Now, whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
New school safety policies in Tennessee, a military coup in Niger, and police cracking down on street racing. Find out why at 4. That and more coming up. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the markets now that they're closed. Big day on the Dow, up 407 points. That's more than 1 percentage point, and that's good. S&P up 40, NASDAQ up 85. All screens are green. Both the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ snapping a 4-day losing streak as stocks rebound. What does this all mean? Tell us more about it, John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management.
Hey, Brian, good afternoon. Yeah, great day in the market after a really bad week last week to capture some momentum. The market's really starting to turn its attention back towards earnings. For example, today, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, actually hit an all-time record because of their sales and their estimates that they beat. So that was good. The market cheered that after the U.S. downgrade last week by Fitch. This week's going to be a key week. The July inflation report's coming out Thursday. It's really a key reading. If that comes in within the market's expectations and continues to reduce, it could be really good for the market this week. If it comes in high, the market could react pretty negatively to that and the fear that the Fed's going to continue to raise interest rates. So that's a key indicator later this week.
All right, John, thank you very much. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. And speaking of which, it's time for our Beacon spot here. And, listen, instead of giving you all the things that we normally talk about with Beacon, I want to tout you on a thing that's going to happen August 17th. At 10:30 a.m. at the Marriott in Cool Springs. How many times have I said to you in these commercials, you might just need to make a minor adjustment. You need, from time to time, have a fresh set of eyes look at things to make sure you're making the right investments for your retirement. And so they're going to have on that day, August 17th, 2023, 10:30 a.m., the Marriott in Cool Springs, a market halftime. Financial trends and opportunities and outlooks. You'll hear from John Maxon. You'll hear from Pete Benson. And I'll be there just to give you the opening remarks, there to shake your hand, say hello, and visit with you. So, again, why don't you just go to their website, beaconcm.com. That's beaconcm.com. And you can sign up or just call them directly and get it all signed up, get that all situated right away. 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303. Again, August 17th, 10:30 a.m., the market halftime report, financial trends, opportunities, and outlooks, and I will see you there.
.401, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 90 degrees right now in Nashville. Complete weather forecast, traffic report in 5 minutes. School back in session. Back to school life has begun for many families, such as it did today in Rutherford and Cheatham counties. And they're bringing in some new school safety policies with this new year. Rutherford County schools will now require clear bags. No backpacks or purses will be allowed unless all of those items get emptied into a clear bag. And in Cheatham County, any visitor wishing to enter the building will have to show a form of identification and answer some questions. And if you want to pick your child up, or you have to wait outside until they drop something off, or if you want to have lunch with them, the front office has to know in advance. And along with that, in Cheatham County, students will not be allowed to carry their backpacks from class to class, but have to keep it in their lockers. In Niger's military coup costing the African nation millions in U.S. aid, Andy Field has details.
The United States hitting pause on millions in aid to Niger until that country's military ends its coup and restores its democratically elected government.
That assistance will affect development aid to the government, security aid to the government. It's a significant amount.
State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller saying they're also helping Americans who want to flee Niger find flights out of that country.
Right now in Nashville, Yellow Trucking Company has officially filed for bankruptcy. Just last week, they paused operations, putting more than 30,000 people out of work. Yellow Trucking has had financial trouble even after getting more than $700 million in pandemic relief funds. And some new developments in the Nashville police crackdown on street racing.
Metro Police say they arrested 20-year-old Kyle Paulson Saturday night on multiple counts of rioting and reckless endangerment. Police say Paulson of Smyrna was seen whipping and sliding in an orange Mustang near a group of people in the parking lot at Corporate Place in South Nashville without the building's owner's permission. Fox 17 says Paulson's a member of the street racing group Night Riders. Police allege Paulson participated in numerous takeovers, slideshows, and shutdowns in May and June throughout Davidson County. And some of these events had hundreds of onlookers. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And right now here, staying in Tennessee, state troopers say one person died in a crash in Rutherford County last night. News 2 reports that it happened between a passenger car and commercial vehicle on 840 at mile marker 50 just after 10 o'clock. And it's unclear which vehicle that victim was in. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and we're so glad that you're with us. And I'm hello, a special drive salute to all of you people out on I-65 North who are just hating life right now because you're stuck in that traffic. I just saw a picture of this this tanker truck. It's a mess out there.
Yeah, it's ugly.
It's a full-on fuel truck. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I mean, that's what it looks like. It's hard to tell because it's upside down and in a ditch, wheels in the air.
Wow.
And so they've completely shut down I-65, both north and south out there in the area. What would you say, Chris? What would be the best way to describe that?
It's kind of in the Goodlettsville area, between Goodlettsville and White House on I-65. Yeah.
So there you go. If you could find another way around to avoid all of that, you would be doing well for yourself today. And in the meantime, apparently they're saying, I've got a thing here from Channel 4 that says they believe that this will be closed all the way through rush hour. So
that's definitely not good.
That's not good. So we apologize for the bad day that you're having, but let's try to keep you informed. By the way, while I've got both you and Mac here, I saw this story. Oh, no, here it is, yeah. Out of Kingsport, Tennessee. Have you heard this? A Tennessean almost threw away a lottery ticket worth 7 figures over the weekend. This according to the Tennessee Lottery. This is on Channel 4's website. The lottery says a grocery store manager in Kingsport nearly threw his ticket away, but he was lucky. He went to a lottery retailer to get it checked, and that's where Jonathan S. found out that he had won $1 million.
Wow.
I was the only customer in the store, and there were tears in my eyes. Jonathan garnered his huge win by playing a Millionaire Jumbo Bucks instant ticket.
Ooh,
it was purchased at Midfield Market, 1600 Fairview Avenue in Kingsport. Lottery adds that last week, Tennessee lottery players won more than $30.6 million in prizes. I'm not a big lotto guy, but...
Yeah, I'm not either. Every time I've played, I've not won or won minimally,
Yeah.
I'd say over the years, I've lost money on it for sure.
Well, you can't play if you don't. You can't win if you don't play.
That's what they
say. You can't win if you don't play. I don't know, but I mean, I'm glad this guy didn't throw it away. I wonder what possessed him to go get it checked.
Yeah, man. I will say this: every time I've ever gotten the scratchers, I examine them thoroughly for way longer than I probably should, just to make sure I didn't win. First of all, because I'm convinced, I must have won. But I'm really worried about that exact thing: throwing away a ticket that could be worth money.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just always sort of go with logic, and percentages are not in my favor. But, then again, who knows? Lightning can strike. Good things can happen.
Right. Yeah.
$1 million, life-changing money right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, congratulations to this guy, Jonathan S. Found out he won $1 million.
Yeah,
Jonathan S.
A long-lost cousin.
Yeah.
Johnny Baby. Remember me?
I wish it was Johnny B. And then we would all go and say, hey, Johnny B.
Hey, Johnny.
He'd be in the wind.
That's right. He'd be gone. He wouldn't have showed up this morning. He said,
no.
Bye-bye, suckers. All right. Federal judge comes out swinging against the DOJ special counsel in Trump classified docs case. This is pretty interesting. Judge Cannon questioned special counsel Jack Smith's use of an out-of-state grand jury to continue investigating the case. The federal judge overseeing the classified documents case against former President Donald Trump delivered multiple blows to special counsel Jack Smith's efforts in a brief Monday. Judge Eileen Cannon of the Southern District of Florida, who is presiding over the case stemming from a grand jury in Miami's June indictment of Trump, denied the Department of Justice's request for sealed filings, striking 2 from the record. Cannon also requested additional information from prosecutors regarding the continued use of an out-of-state grand jury to investigate the case. The special counsel states in conclusory terms that the supplement should be sealed from public to comport with grand jury secrecy, but the motion for leave and supplement plainly fail to satisfy the burdens of establishing a sufficient legal or factual basis for sealing the motion. So that's a win. Among other topics as raised in the motion, the response shall address the legal propriety of using an out-of-district grand jury proceeding to continue to investigate and or seek post-indictment hearings on matters pertinent to the instant indicted matter in this district. I'm not sure, but what she's talking about there, it sounds like, Jack Smith trying to pull a fast one. Cannon gave counsel for, let's see. This is getting into another issue. I'm having the worst trouble today. The filing Monday came in response to the special counsel's request for a hearing to examine the defense attorney Stanley Woodward's potential conflict of interest, who represents Waltine Nauta, a Trump aide listed as a co-defendant in the case, who also represents 3 individuals. So there's some other things they're working through there. Trump has demanded the recusal of the appointed judge in the January 6th case, which is in the D.C. area. Former President Donald Trump has called for the recusal of the judge assigned to the case. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan, a former assistant public defender who was nominated to the bench by President Barack Obama, has been assigned to preside over Trump's case. In that case, Trump has been charged with 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Well, 4 counts. We've already been over all that. Trump maintains his innocence and has pleaded not guilty. Judge Chutkan issued a ruling against Mr. Trump, giving his legal team less time than requested to respond to a proposal by prosecutors for the judge to issue a protective order limiting what information Mr. Trump can share publicly about the case, trying to keep him from talking about certain things. There's no way I can get a fair trial with this judge to assign to this ridiculous freedom of speech, fair elections case, Mr. Trump wrote on Truth Social. Everybody knows this, and so does she. We will be immediately asking for a recusal for this judge on very powerful grounds, and likewise for venue change out of D.C. Okay, where are they going to try to go? They would love to get this moved over to West Virginia. 70% of the people in West Virginia voted for Trump. So they would have a much, compared to 92% of the people in D.C. who voted for Joe Biden. I mean, come on. He's right. It's going to be really hard to get a fair trial. But, is in his world, West Virginia would be a dream. But they could go anywhere. They can go anywhere in the country. It's a federal case. All right. But I want to get into another thing with Donald Trump, and that is, he's doing pretty well. I mean, the numbers are so strong that I don't know that anybody can catch him on the Republican side of the equation because he looks like he's on the way to becoming the next Republican nominee. Let me just pull up the latest numbers. Some of these numbers are just shockingly good for Trump. Shockingly good. Okay, let me just say, for example, Reuters Ipsos, Trump leads DeSantis by 34 points. It is Trump 47, DeSantis 13. He's the nearest competitor. Ramaswamy comes in 7, Pence 8, Haley 5, Scott 2, Christie 0, Asa Hutchinson 1 in that particular trial, in that particular poll. Morning Consult, listen to this. Trump 58, DeSantis 15. That means that Trump has a 43-point lead on DeSantis in that poll. Nationwide. Now, it doesn't mean much. It just gives you a sense of where Republican support is generally. And it seems that every time Trump gets indicted, he does better. He has even noted this. Here is Trump speaking recently.
Every time they file an indictment, we go way up in the polls. We need one more indictment to close out this election. One more indictment, and this election is closed out. Nobody has even a chance. We've already defeated the Republicans. They're at 2 and 3 and 1. You know, they all want me to go, onto the debate stage. And I say, well, if we're at 71 and they're at 0, 1, 2, 3, some of them are at 4 or 5. I don't know. Does it really make a lot of sense? Does it really? I love to debate, but, sometimes you don't want to be a fool. You want a smart president. You don't want a stupid president.
Sounds like he's not going to go to the debate. Sounds like that to me. And the folks over at Fox News are egging him on, because they've got the debate on August 23rd. Everybody will be there except for Trump, who has not committed, I think. Well, not everybody. Everybody who qualifies will be there. And there'll be some who don't qualify. But as it stands right now, Trump said, and if I take him at his word, it'd be dumb for him to go. It'd be stupid for him to go. He's got this thing right now. Nobody can touch him. He will be, if nothing changes, it seems very likely, the Republican nominee. And he's right. Give him one more indictment, and there probably are some out there.
Every time they file an indictment, we go way up in the polls.
And that's true. Every single time there is bad news for Donald Trump, give it 2 or 3 days, and his numbers go up. And generally at the expense of DeSantis, who comes as close as anybody. But understand, let me just go through this. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 different polls here. Trump plus 32, Trump plus 40, Trump plus 44, Trump plus 36, Trump up by 37. Trump up by 43, Trump up by 34. If you take all of those and average them together, okay, this is the real clear politics average of polls. Trump 38 points above DeSantis. So it's 53.7 for Trump, 15.7 for DeSantis, 6 for Ramaswamy, 5.1 for Pence, 3.6 for Haley, 2.9 for Scott, 2.3 for Christie, 0.9 for Asa Hutchinson, 0.5 for Burgum, 0.3 for Hurd. And the average, Trump leads his nearest competitor by 38 points. Now, that's not the way it really works. You got to go state by state. You got to go through Iowa. Some of these states have an outsized influence in what happens in the rest of it. You got to win Iowa. You got to win New Hampshire. You got to do well in South Carolina. But honestly, I can't ever recall a situation where a person is so far ahead this early. Now, it is different because, you have a former president who's now running for re-election. That's a rare thing. But he's doing really well, and nobody seems to be able to touch him. And I don't think he's going to that. I don't think he's going to show up on the 23rd of August. If it is, it's because they egged him into it, or something happens that he feels like he needs to go and explain himself. I don't know. I think he's just going to ride it out, and he would be smart to do so. It's 21 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. King & Associates Insurance in Brentwood. They've been around some 25 years. It's an independent agency, and I love that. Because they're small enough to take good care of you as an individual. For example, this is just a small thing, but it means a lot, don't you think? You call this number, 615-329-8121. You don't reach a call center. You don't reach a phone tree. You get an actual person on the line that will take care of your issues. And then, the other thing I like about them is because they're independent, they can shop around to find the best deal for you, to find that insurance that really meets your individual need. You don't get that if you're dealing with a mega website insurance company. Listen, multi-policy discounts, they can help you save a ton of money. 20, 25, 30, 35, huge savings. So do what I'm doing. I'm putting together all my information. I'm getting ready to take it over to them, have them run it for what they call a royal review. That's right. Get a royal review. Just log on to tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates, Royal Treatment, and you'll get really, really good rates.
Crazy traffic in Goodlettsville on I-65 due to a tanker truck completely overturning. A Tennessee man's body remains found in Kentucky. And today's money news. Those stories and more coming up 4:30. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 26 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive. I've got this story here about the debate on August 23rd. Currently, only 7 candidates have met the Republican National Committee's polling criteria to appear on the debate stage. A candidate must receive at least 1% in 3 reputable national polls, or 1% in 2 national polls, and 1% in 2 polls from the early primary or caucus states. Gets complicated, doesn't it? That would be South Carolina, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Iowa. The candidates must also have a minimum of 40,000 donors with 220 or more states. Finally, all participants need to sign a pledge to support the eventual nominee. I think that's one of the main reasons that Trump won't come. He doesn't, something should happen. I don't think he wants to be held to that standard. At the moment, Mr. Trump, who says you just heard him, he's not likely to attend. Governor DeSantis, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy, former governor of New Jersey Chris Christie, governor of North Carolina James Burgum, senator of South Carolina Tim Scott, and former governor of South Carolina Nikki Haley. Those are the other ones who've qualified for the debate. Here's a shocker. Former Vice President Mike Pence has not. He is not qualified. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez has not. Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson and former Congressman Will Hurd have not met donor requirements and are not qualified. So they're not going to be on that stage the way it stands right now. Pence says he might get there by the time we get to the poll, get to the debate, but it doesn't. I don't know that he's going to make it. And if he doesn't, that's the point where some of these people have got to fall by the wayside. If you can't get enough support to get on the debate stage, maybe, it's just not going to happen for you. All politicians, I think. I think it's they're like that little kid digging through the room full of poop looking for a pony. They believe if I keep digging hard, I know I could be a great president. I could be a great president. But I don't know. So Trump, look, Trump's he's at the top of the heap right now. I just don't see a scenario where it's not Trump at this point. Unless something, because and if I would say, well, the indictments, you don't know. Well, it doesn't matter. He's still, every time you indict him, his numbers go up, not down. So he seems to be, bulletproof at this point. And I don't see anybody, if he stays out of the debates, let the 3 and 4 percenters, all beat up on each other and just stay out of it. Keep your nose above it. Honestly, I just think he wins by staying out of the debates and not saying very much right now. Go out there and do your rallies and talk to your folks, but I think you're in a situation right now where you should just cruise right into the Republican nomination if you're Donald Trump by not doing much and not saying much. You have it. And he's right. He's one more indictment from being there. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.430, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 90 degrees on Music Row. No more severe threat for weather today. Wednesday, the next chance for some severe storms. Looking at traffic, I-65 going both ways, still closed after a tanker truck completely overturned. This is at mile marker 105 south of White House and north of Millersville. There's a good chance, according to TDOT, that the interstate's going to be remained closed throughout tonight's rush hour. Traffic right now being diverted to exit 104 Bethel Road. And we got a full forecast and that latest traffic report all on the way in 5 minutes. This just in, Channel 4 reports that the remains of a missing Putnam County man were found in Kentucky yesterday. Daniel Stephen Mabry was reported missing in April and then was found in Louisville. An autopsy report is now being conducted. Over to the money news. Daria Albinger walks us through Wall Street.
A jump start for the markets after a nearly week-long pause. The Dow rose 408 points. The Nasdaq added 85 for the session, and the S&P closed up 40. Investors are looking ahead to a busy week of earnings, including the Walt Disney Company, the parent company of ABC News. Yellow Corporation officially declared bankruptcy over the weekend after announcing last week that it was going out of business. The century-old company, which did long hauls for Home Depot, Walmart, and many other retailers, announced that it was going to end operations after years of financial struggles and growing debt. Business is booming for scammers. The FTC says consumers lost $8.8 billion to fraud last year, up 30% from 2021. The biggest losses were to investment scams, including cryptocurrency schemes. Younger adults ages 20 to 29 were most likely to be affected.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I tell you, I got this air conditioning from Busy Bee. Keeps my house nice and cold. You walk outside and you realize very quickly why you are so glad that you have an air conditioning system that works. And it's like walking into a wall of just humidity. It's a wall of water. And so if you find that your air conditioner's not working today, what I would do, call the folks over at Busy Bee. 615-775-7833. They will buzz over to your hive. They will fix whatever going on to you. Maybe it's time to replace it. And if you have reached that point where, okay, these things don't last forever, you've got to replace your HVAC system. You're never going to find a better value on HVAC and plumbing replacement systems. Listen, I would become a member of the Beehive Club if I were you. I am, and I love it. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems. One aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 775-7833, online at busybehvac.com. It's 38 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. You're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you've been a long-time listener to this program, that I have said on several occasions, I think we ought to bag the special session that's scheduled for August 21st of this year, just a few days from now. And I feel very strongly about it. I just don't feel like it's the right time. I don't think that there's a lot of interest in doing some of the things that the governor wants. And I was surprised this weekend to find out that the executive committee, the GOP executive committee of Tennessee, feels exactly the same way. They passed a unanimous proposal, amendment that says that the Tennessee Republican Party encourages Governor Bill Lee to reconsider and not have a special session on August 21st of 2023. Joining us now on the line to talk more about this is Scott Golden, who is the chairman of the GOP in the state of Tennessee. Scott, always good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All right. So the executive committee was pretty strong on this, saying, and we're all friends. The executive committee, we're all Republicans here, and we're all talking to one another. But a pretty strong little shot across the bow of the governor, suggesting that perhaps we not have that session. So you were on the line when you were there when this all happened, right?
Oh yeah. There was a resolution brought up from several members of our committee, brought up under new business. Everybody said, "Hey, we need to, express our opinion of what's happening." And I will say this goes back a little ways for our committee. I mean, after the tragedy at Covenant happened, at the end of the last legislative session, our state executive committee was meeting, and we passed a resolution then that we would, love to see, we encourage the release of the manifesto,
right,
of the Covington shooter. So, right, that was kind of step number one. Let's if we're going to talk about legislation, let's get all the facts straight, right? And then in the intervening period of time, of course, there's been reporting that there are going to be several different liberal groups that are looking to Tennessee to send people from out of state that are here, that are going to be, what we saw in 2020 with the defund the police riots and everything. So we know that there are liberal groups organizing there. And then, and finally, I just, we don't know yet what is going to be in the session. It's, it's 2 weeks away. So you sort of couple all that together. You get our board members sort of saying, "Hey, maybe this isn't the best time if we don't know what we're going into, and we know we've got some bad actors coming in, and we don't even have the information of where all of this sort of originated. Maybe we should hold off and wait to the legislative session to get some things accomplished."
Well,
now, that being
what was the reaction when this happened on? I guess it was Saturday, right?
It was Saturday. Yeah, we were. There were several members, and again, you have to. All of our members are elected in state senate districts, right? So their districts are the same as state senate. They've been out at Reagan Day dinners, Lincoln Day dinners over the summer since the end of session. They've seen all their legislators. And, everybody's kind of asking questions. So, I mean, look, I do think that the governor is going to come out with, whatever his proposals are. I personally haven't seen them, so I don't know exactly what we're talking about. But I think that's, again, we do know some things, and there are different, Republican parties across the state that have expressed their displeasure in the red flag type legislation that might be out there. Again, we don't yet know what's going to be in there, so I'm hopeful that when the full breadth of what might potentially be in a special session, maybe there's going to be some great conservative things in there, but as we sit right now and Saturday at the committee, it was knowing all of these things that go into it. I think the committee just overwhelmingly felt that maybe not now having a special session is not the best time.
I read this article in the Chattanooga Times. And it quoted Tina Benckiser. Is that the way you would say it, of Signal Mountain?
Tina Benckiser. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Let me just read some of what she had to say, because I find myself in complete agreement with it. I think Tennesseans are not only proud but understand the Second Amendment. They are proud and agree with the Constitution of the United States. I feel at this point a lot of this is really emotion as opposed to rational and reasoned. My concern, and a lot of others' concern, is that some of the proposals we heard really violate due process of law, and that's a fundamental concern. And when you start talking about potentially infringing on people's constitutional rights, that needs to be thought out over a long period of time. I understand. This is where I find myself complete agreement. I understand that people sometimes act out of emotion when something horrendous has happened, as happened in Nashville, but also to friends of the governor's. I understand that, and I think the natural reaction is you want to do something, and you want to do something now. But like I said, when you're talking about constitutional rights at the end of the day, You need to take the time to think that out. I could not agree with that anything more, because, government, if you get government together, they feel like, well, we have to do something. Well, I'm not sure we do have to do something without knowing what's in that manifesto. And we're not going to see that, according to John Harris over at TFA. We may not see that for 3 years.
Right. And Tina comes at it. Look, Tina's a great member. Her background is that she teaches constitutional law, and she's the former chairman of the Texas Republican Party. So transplant from Texas to Chattanooga. So she
there's a lot of those. You got to watch those people real close.
Well, she's pretty. She knows what she speaks of, and I think Brian, we all agree that in the immediate aftermath, this is kind of what led to some of the outbursts of the Justin Joneses, right? I mean, this is
right.
That was all emotion at that period of time, and I think everybody agrees. We all want to protect our kids as best we can, but let's figure out what we're doing and moving in there. And look, I've not been a part of the conversation, so I know that our legislators, all of our Republican representatives are working. So maybe there are some great things out there that I'm just not aware of, but I know that, obviously the special session we're looking at starting in 2 weeks. And so hopefully, this information will start coming out and people can feel more comfortable if there's something that can be achieved. And if not, then, obviously we're going to be back in session in January. So, those meetings are already happening with a lot of our legislators getting ready for the January session, much less the potential of an August session.
And that's my larger point. Since the governor's not going to get his legislation, I've talked to a lot of state legislators, and his version of a red flag law is simply not going to pass. He's not going to get it. It's not going to happen. And I'm not sure he would get, anything other than maybe a few Democrat votes. I don't think that anybody really is excited about that. So you're not going to get that. And anything else that you might do, there would be no harm, no foul in waiting perhaps until, January to do it when the session comes back into what would be wrong with that?
Yeah, I think, look, it's certainly up to the governor and the legislators. And again, I think what our committee, where we were coming down is that when you start seeing all the things stack up, you just don't know what we're getting. And I do think that they're ironing all of these issues out. And so maybe we will know a little something, is sooner rather than later. But I think for our members, they're hearing the same thing. They're talking to their legislators as well. And they're kind of hearing, well, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm not. And, again, a lot of conversations behind closed doors, but I do think the overarching thing is we're really concerned about who's gearing up for, who's going to be protesting out on Legislative Plaza and all of these things. And I hope it's not that way, but again, I think Tina hit on it that, obviously their side is going to put as much emotion into this as possible.
You got Justin Jones coming back. You got Pearson coming back. And we know that there have been actual sessions where these professional protesters who travel from town to town have been meeting and discussing how they want to come and mess up this special session of the state legislature. And some of them, there was actually a soundbite. I could dig it back up given enough time, where somebody said, look, if you feel like, that you're somebody who wants to do security, we have people, they got weapons. Isn't that funny? We got people who can take care of that. And they won't be involved in the frontline protesting, but they'll be there. They're going to send people with guns, which is hysterical, since this is supposed to be about limiting. The Democrats would like it to be about limiting guns.
Yeah, somebody mentioned to me the other day that it would be the only legislative session in session across the country, so that all the other states are done legislating for the years, but this would be the only one. So there would be a lot of attention focused on it, and certainly we've had that. You're right with the Justins. They are clearly they're in charge of the Democrat Party these days. So I mean, where Justin Jones is where the modern day Tennessee Democrat Party is, and he was one of the main, obviously, ringleaders during the 2020.
Absolutely.
The whatever it was, the march that turned to the courthouse getting burned down or getting set on fire. So, I think all those things taken into consideration, I think that's just where the committee came down and said, maybe this isn't, all of these things setting up. Maybe let's just, spend a little more time, and we're going to be back in session in 4 months anyway. So if that was an option, I think that's what our board of the Tennessee Republican Party wanted to express.
Well, Scott, you're the chairman of the Republican Party in the state of Tennessee. Have you had any reaction from the governor's office?
No. I mean, I think, again, as I have heard, they are sort of preparing what they're going to be releasing. And so the good news is that I know that they're working on it. And so they're gonna put their plan out, and I'm hopeful that there are some things that are out there that we can pass to help to curb some of the crime issues and this is, I mean, I know we're here in Nashville, but Memphis is experiencing a record number of carjackings per day, so there are crime issues across this state. That this would be a great opportunity if the package is there and things that the Republicans can get around for. This would be a great opportunity to make sure that keeping our citizens safe. I just think it's got to be released, and I know that they're working on it. So that's the only thing that I hear is that stay tuned. There is going to be some good things, but perhaps in there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I think the concern right now is just what type of environment and kind of where our legislators are ultimately going to be.
All right. Well, listen, Scott, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
Brian,
You've always been a good friend of the. We will, and I'll have some more to say about this in just a couple moments. I want to put my button on it now, in just after we take a commercial break. 51 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Love my friends over at DT McCall and Sons. What a great company. Been around for more than 100 years. And you don't get to hang around that long unless you have a reputation for treating people right. And I think they do. So what is it that you need for your home right now? Is it an appliance? Is something worn out? Is it something, you need to replace? Is it furniture? Maybe you need a mower or some of the other things that, a gun safe. You name all the things that you want for your home. You're going to find them at DT McCall's 5 convenient locations. Now, you will go to a big box store and you say, hey, I like that appliance over there. And they give you a price and you say, wow, that's a great price. But then they start to ask you the extra questions. Well, do you want to pay more for, and do you want some cords and hoses to go with it? Yeah. You want it delivered to your home? Yeah, well, of course, yes. You want the haul away of the old one? Yep. Well, when they start adding the fees on for all that at the big box stores, turns out it wasn't such a good deal after all. At TT McCall's, they'll give you an honest price that includes delivery, paid for the haul away, the cords and hoses, the setup, the whole 9 yards. That's the kind of company you want to do business. And by the way, whenever possible, they sell products made and manufactured in the state of Tennessee. 5 convenient locations. Learn more by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Let me talk to you about the folks over at Everseal and explain to you exactly what Everseal is. I mean, that's, I guess, the big deal. It is a sealant that is something that's been used in industrial applications for years and years and years and years. And the folks over at Everseal have figured out how to provide a permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that home and business owners can actually afford. Now, they will come in and start the process by doing a deep cleaning to make your wood and concrete look as new as it ever can look. And then they apply their patented sealant, which absorbs all the way through the wood and concrete to become a permanent part of your wood and concrete. It will prevent further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Now, think about how much money you'll save. Think about how much you spend on that on an annual basis. Then add that, well, double that. How about 5 years? How about 10 years? You know, you can see how you could really save some money over the long haul by doing it one time and forgetting it. So if this sounds like something you'd want to do at your house, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't, why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the folks over at Everseal, 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 1-844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
.501, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 89 degrees in Nashville. We got that complete weather forecast, the latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, where Washington, D.C. federal offices closed early today because of tornado threats to the area. Andy Field has the latest.
The Pentagon taking tornado threats seriously and sending its 23,000 workers home early. All D.C. federal offices doing the same as the Weather Service issued a rare tornado watch for the capital city, Maryland, and Virginia. Forecasters predicting at least a few tornadoes, along with winds as high as 75 miles an hour and possible hail and flooding.
And here in Tennessee, all active tornado alerts have subsided in the state. Crime in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a man, 31-year-old Renes Nersten Castay, is facing charges after filling up a trash can with stolen merchandise. This was inside of a gas station in Antioch. It was July when Castay packed in almost $1,200 worth of items, including cigarettes and scratch-off lottery tickets. Castay's bond has now been set at $2,000. And in Murfreesboro, a driver crashed into a home before driving away. Here's Channel 4's Michael Warwick with that story.
This family of four was home asleep when they got this dramatic wake-up call. Irene Boydston tells me someone drove through their yard and into their dining room and garage. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, and Murfreesboro firefighters put up beams so Irene and her family could stay in the home. Now, Murfreesboro police want to talk to the driver, who Irene says came back to the home later to confess and apologize.
Right now in Nashville, a man arrested on Friday after being accused of touching a woman without her consent at the Nashville Public Library. 34-year-old Richard Walker shared food with the woman earlier in that day. They never met prior to that officially. Camera footage shows Walker approaching that woman while she was sitting down and then talking to her, grabbing her butt, and then groping her before walking up and leaving. Walker denied those accusations despite the clear footage. He was charged with sexual battery. And we've got some new developments in Nashville with police cracking down on street racing.
Metro Police say they arrested 20-year-old Kyle Paulson Saturday night on multiple counts of rioting and reckless endangerment. Police say Paulson of Smyrna was seen whipping and sliding in an orange Mustang near a group of people in the parking lot at Corporate Place in South Nashville without the building's owner's permission. Fox 17 says Paulson's a member of the street racing group Night Riders. Police allege Paulson participated in numerous takeovers, slideshows, and shutdowns in May and June throughout Davidson County. And some of these events had hundreds of onlookers. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is 8 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air for you on this 7th day of August. We know that our friends who are driving either north or south on I-65 are having a bad day today. An overturned tanker truck. It looked to me like like a gas tanker, but it's really sort of hard to tell. Could be a dairy tanker, could be a gas tanker. I don't know what it is, but it's upside down in the bar ditch with wheels up, and they have decided to close off I-65 both ways, and that's not likely to. We are told not likely to be cleaned up until we get through rush hour. So. This is one of those days where, as my buddy Ken Weaver used to say in the morning show, got to pack your patience. Need to pack your patience because it's going to be a long haul for those folks on I-65 north or south. Well, north of Nashville.
North of town, yeah.
North of town, right.
Yeah. Might want to pack a snack, too. 'Cause I'm just looking at some of the live cameras, and, people are just crawling along. And the unfortunate thing about it is that there are not a whole lot of alternates that you can get through, depending on where you're going, obviously, northbound. 31W is the big one that I actually use when I'm going home. I get off 65 right there in Goodlettsville. It's backed up in both directions, so it's crawling. You could take 41 if you're wanting to go up through Ridgetop, but the alternates are not great.
No, not great.
You're just going to have to allow some extra time, unfortunately.
Yeah, is this one of those days where maybe you stay in town a little later than you normally would?
Maybe, yes.
Go have dinner.
Might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate that for you folks. It's going to be a rough day. We'll try to get some information. I went too long with Scott Golden, so I didn't get to have enough time to put my button on the things that we were talking about with regard to this upcoming special session. August 21st, Governor has called it. It's a special session on gun safety. And he has a piece of legislation dead on arrival, as far as I can tell. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to happen. I haven't met one state legislator who wants to be a part of that. And so I don't see how in the world you get that passed. And so it seems like we've got a special session where we're casting about for things to do, because the governor is clearly not going to get his legislation. But we're the state legislature, and a horrible thing has happened with the Covenant shooting, and we just feel like we got to do something, and I hate that. That is the wrong way to go about legislating. You don't do things because you're all emotional and things have gone bad. I mean, it's a horrible thing what happened at Covenant School. Don't get me wrong. And there may be some legislative things that can be done to fix this, but you don't rush around in an emotional setting like that and react emotionally. That is never, in my experience, and I've been covering, politics for a long, long time. In my experience, when you react out of emotion, you generally overreact and you end up with a bad piece of legislation. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Since the governor's not going to get what he wants, and we now seem to be, what else could we do? Well, that's not the way we go about it. I mean, let's find out what the real need here is. And first and foremost, in order to have an understanding of what we really need, we need to understand what was in the mind of the Covenant shooter. We need that manifesto, and it ain't coming. We're not going to get it. That thing has been lawyered to an oblivion. I mean, there's nobody going to be able to touch that thing for a year or more. We're not going to know what was in the mind, and we should be able to make a decision having looked at that information and moving forward. So, Governor, I've been with you a lot. I can't be with you on this. I have a lot of respect for you, Governor. I think you're a decent and godly man. I do. I truly do believe that. And I think that you have a heart and you're a compassionate individual. And it's that compassion that's driving you to think that maybe we need to do something a little bit different. Governor, I will say this right now. You'll always get a fair hearing here on my program anytime you want to come on and talk about it. I would invite you to do that. for people who are within the sound of my voice, who might, make sure the governor knows, I'm happy to have him come on my show, and I will treat him politely as I always have to discuss this, but I just don't think it's the right thing. I think, Governor, let's do this in January. Let's be done. I'll give you two more reasons why I think it's a bad idea. First of all, we should not react out of emotion. As Tina been kind, I mean, I tell you, I don't know Tina. I need to get to know Tina. I hope this gets back to her. I'm trying to reach out to her to see if I can have her on the show. I feel at this point, a lot of this is really emotion, as opposed to rational and reasoned. My concern, and a lot of others' concern, is that some of the proposals we've heard really violate due process of law, and that's a fundamental concern when you start talking about potentially infringing on people's constitutional rights. And then there's the whole thing about the Democrats and how they are likely to react. We got the Justin Jones mess, and we got the Pearson, and they're all back. There's going to be protests, and they're going to be extremely organized, and a lot of the people who are going to be here have no business at all being involved in this Tennessee debate. They don't live here. They are just here to stir the pot and to cause chaos. And I fear that it's going to spiral out of control. It almost did before, and it seems like it's very much likely to do that. I don't mind people in a spirited way expressing their constitutional rights for free speech. I mean, I'm all for that. But these folks are planning more than that. They want to disrupt and not have a conversation. They just want to disrupt and cause chaos. And we don't need that here. We don't need that in our state legislature. We need us to offer, our state legislature ought to be offering things in a reasoned and a thoughtful way. And so I say, look, let's do this in January. We'll have plenty of time to go through all those things in January. Maybe we'll know a little bit more about the shooter and what was motivating the shooter. Maybe that will help us, guide us. But this is going to be a disaster. And I'm just saying to the governor, with an immense amount of respect and with all the politeness that I can muster, you need to drop this idea. The state committee doesn't think it's a good idea. The state legislature, as far as I can tell, I can't find anybody who thinks it's a particularly great idea. We're doing it just because you set a date, but you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get the things that you want. So why don't we just bag this thing, cut the Democrats and their chaos plan off at the knees, and then just come back in January. I mean, it's just a few months till January, and we can get it done. We don't have, and the last thing is the expense. It's not a lot of money, but it is money. And let's not spend the taxpayers' money. Let's not give the Democrats a platform for them to create chaos in the state of Tennessee. And let's not go in a process that is driven by emotion to produce, and that generally, in my estimation, produces bad legislation. So, Governor, I'm very happy to have you on. Very happy to have you tell me why you think I'm wrong. And you'll be treated with great politeness, as you always are. Cameron Sexton, I've already talked to his people, and we're going to, as we get closer and closer, they'll bring us up to idea. Maybe they have some different ideas, but nobody wants it. Why are we doing it? It's not a good idea right now. It's really not. So I hope the governor will hear what the executive committee, the Republican executive committee, has said unanimously. I hope that they listen and they consider it, because I think it's thoughtful what they've said. And let's just move on to fight another day. Okay? This this Tina Benkaiser, boy, she's really, I can't tell you how much I feel like I'm in sync with her. I understand that people sometimes act out of emotion when something horrendous has happened, as happened here in Nashville. But and some of these are friends of the governor's. I understand that. And I think the natural reaction is that you want to do something, and you want to do something now. But like I said, when you're talking about constitutional rights at the end of the day, you need to take time to think that out. Here's another Chris Morris, executive committee member from Giles County. He's putting legislatures, both the House and Senate, in danger. We'll be the only state in special session, and guess what? We're going to be inundated with those others for those crazy from other states. He's right. He said he was in the House gallery earlier this year as House Republicans expelled 2 lawmakers. I don't know how many of you were there. I was. When they removed the lawmakers, it was crazy being one of 2 people in the gallery with all these nuts around you. And the problem is, we as Republicans don't get off our do-nothing and quit leaning back in our elbows and do less and go up there and support these legislators. He said we should be the ones packing the House. All right, here we go, folks. I'm just going to leave it at this. Governor Bill Lee, we've had a good relationship over the years. I would love for you to feel free to come on my program and tell me why you think I'm wrong, and I'll give you all of the opportunity you possibly could have to express that to me without interrupting you, without being argumentative. I think we're friends. I think we can do that. But this is not a good idea. Give up on this one. This one needs to go away. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. If you have pain in your arms, your legs, your neck, your back, you have a tingling in your extremities, this all could be something that can be made better through the application of a therapy known as non-surgical spinal decompression. I'm telling you, and you're not going to find anywhere that does it better than the Wellness Institute of Nashville. I've gone through a whole series of those treatments, and they have been very, very helpful to me, and I think they'll be helpful to you. So if you're new patient, to take advantage of the 2023 special. You get an exam, consultation, x-rays. If you have an MRI, bring it in. You'll go over them with Dr. Kevin Mitchell, and they will come up with a healing plan for you and get you started. The first consult is $23. $23 for new patients. Now, they have another thing in addition to the non-surgical spinal decompression. They're offering the first of its kind KT machine. It's like the spinal decompression, but it's aimed at your knee. It elongates the knee and the joint and allows the meniscus and the cartilage to receive the healing therapy without the need for surgery or painkillers. It all starts with a phone call. Here we go, 615-246-5009. Again, that's 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
I-65 going both ways near Goodlettsville closed right now. Former President Trump responds to protective order request and a man shot because of his dog. I'll have those stories and more 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. There's Mac Morey in the newsroom. There's Chris Weber in the control room. And here I am coming to you live from bucolic Watertown, where we had rain today. Some of those storms that came through, I don't think in my particular area, but in some of the other areas, seemed pretty strong. Pretty strong rain.
I didn't know we had any rain today.
Yeah,
it was there's some south, but I didn't realize it got up this far.
Yeah. There was some say it got into Watertown barely, but most of it was a little due south. You're right. Murfreesboro got a pretty good drenching, I think. I want to mention that I'm going to be gone, guys, on Wednesday. And I've always been, sort of two minds about these things. We have a situation where I need to go in for a little bit of I don't want people to panic when I say it, but it is technically heart surgery.
Oh,
now they're not going to crack me open and leave stitches up and down.
That's good.
It's an inpatient, outpatient kind of thing. I'll be in and out in one day, but I've got to go. It turns out. All my life, I've heard this from doctors. You got a little bit of a weird rhythm to your heart. You got some flippities. They don't. It's not constant. You have
arrhythmia.
Arrhythmia is the correct word for it. Yes, arrhythmia. They said. I said, well, yeah. I found out that apparently it's not unusual, but in this particular case, the last time I went in, they checked it and they said, you know what, this is getting to the point where I think we might want to do something about it. And so, apparently what happens when you have an arrhythmia, your heart, some chambers of your heart are beating out of sync. And so what they do is, this is really, the joy that I'm going to be facing on Wednesday. It knows no bounds. You go in and they run a catheter through your groin. Now, I mean, right there. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. And then they run the catheter up into your heart, and they zap, literally with microwaves, as I understand it, certain cells within your heart that control the beating of that chamber, as best I can understand.
Wow.
it. I'm no doctor, but that's the way it's been explained to me. And then they pull it all out, send you home. So
it sounds like it's kind of the old equivalent of the IT, plug it in, unplug it, and plug it back in.
Yes. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know Johnny V went and he got like
that's right,
zapped with the paddles, and that put his back in rhythm. But they want to go ahead and do this thing called ablation, and so I'm going in Wednesday for an ablation, and I just would rather let people know up front I'm not going to be here Wednesday. And if you hear somebody say Wilson had a heart surgery, I don't want you to think that literally, they're cracking me open. And by the way, I did an MRI, cardio MRI, and other than this arrhythmia, my heart's in really, really good shape.
Great.
That's
so
good.
what they say is when you get the thing in rhythm again, that they say that for some time now my heart's been working against itself. And I've been running around living life with about half a heart, about 50% heart capacity. And so they say that, and I always thought I was just getting old.
Yeah.
I'm just getting old. That's all that is. And they say, no, the reason that you don't have any stamina is because your heart's beating out of rhythm. So they say I'll get 100% back when it's all done.
I feel like a new man.
So
that's right.
So usually you listen to a heartbeat. I'm just trying to get this straight. I know this is dumb, but it's like dum 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 dum, and yours is like dum 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 or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, and they just got to get it back to
I got the little things for my iPhone with the so you put your thumbs on it and it gives you a heartbeat.
Yeah,
and it just says it just confuses it. Is all I know.
It thinks you're an animal or something.
I don't know.
Human. How many hearts are in there?
Yeah, so
is this part of the UFO?
It's been great in some ways because every time my wife asks me to do something, I say, honey, I just have half a heart. You're asking me to do this, and and somebody said, you're half-hearted, and I said, I don't ever go after anything half-hearted. They said, well, being half-hearted is much better than being half-assed. And I agree on that. I
No
agree on
argument.
that.
Yeah.
30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk.
Minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 88 degrees and now mostly sunny after those showers and tornado watches have all passed through the volunteer state. Looking at traffic, though, I-65 going both ways, still closed after a tanker truck completely overturned. This was near mile marker 105, south of White House, north of Millersville. And there's a good chance, according to TDOT, that the interstate's going to be remained closed throughout tonight's whole rush hour. Traffic right now being diverted to exit 104 Bethel Road. And we got a complete forecast and the latest traffic report to let you know all about that coming up in 5 minutes. Former President Trump's legal team made their late afternoon deadline to respond to a protective order request over evidence in the 2020 election charges against him. Andy Field with details.
After former President Trump appeared in an online statement to threaten anyone coming after him, Special Counsel Jack Smith asked the court for a protective order that would stop Mr. Trump from revealing any evidence in the 2020 election charges against him. His lawyers responding that would restrict Mr. Trump's First Amendment rights and offered instead to only restrict the former president from revealing the most sensitive evidence. Now up to the judge to decide.
Here in Music City, people in Midtown are on edge after Metro Police say a man was shot after his dog lunged at two men nearby.
Me and my friend are both like, that could have been us.
Milo's a puppy. He's almost four months old, so, I mean, we can't always control every little motion, and, you know, he does get excited at times when people are approaching him.
And that victim was taken to a local hospital for a non-life-threatening injury. And Tyson Foods closing 4 chicken processing plants to try to lower costs. Fortunately, not here in Tennessee. Tyson is closing 1 plant, though, in Arkansas, and then 1 in Indiana, 2 in Missouri. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Again, a reminder, if you're headed north on 65 north of Nashville, you're going to run into problems. There is a tanker overturned, and we're hearing that it's likely to take all the way through rush hour to get it cleaned up. So it's a mess up there. Both north and southbound lanes, are they still all closed? I think they are.
Yes, they are.
And it's a mess. And so, just you need to know if you're headed up that way from Nashville, well, danger. It's going to be bad. It's going to just, pack your patience or find another route. It's your only choice. But it's bad. So we apologize for that. It's not really my fault, but I'll apologize anyway. I feel bad for you. If you're out there right now and you're driving, you may have noticed in recent days that the price of gasoline has gone up. And you may say, well, what's that all about? From the Wall Street Journal. Booming oil prices last year powered U.S. inflation to 40-year highs. That trend was reversing in 2023 until now. Benchmark crude prices are up more than 18% over the past month, driving up the cost of American workers' commute, freight haulers' trips to and from warehouses, and the production of everything from plastics and fertilizer to, I don't know what that is, fertilizers to clothing. The gains threatened to prop up inflation just as easing price pressure had investors betting the Fed would soon wrap up its campaign of interest rate increases. In other words, what's going to happen here is gasoline is going up. There is nothing that impacts inflation quicker or has a bigger impact on inflation than the increased price of oil and gas. Oil and gas are more expensive. And part of the reason is that it's more expensive now is that certain players on the world oil market have decided they're not going to put as much out there. And we were putting money from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I think until June we were still doing that. And that was artificially keeping the price of gas low. Now, you can't do that forever. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is the lowest it's been since 1983. And they've got to fill it up, and they've got to start doing that. And so what this means is, because they're going to have to fill it up at when oil is expensive, it's going to cost a lot. And so they're trying to figure out how to do that. So they're not putting more in. They got to start filling back up the Strategic Reserve, and some other world players have cut the amount of oil they're putting into down the spigots for you to use on the world market. This gain threatens to prop up inflation, just as easing price pressures had investors betting that the Federal Reserve would soon wrap up its campaign of interest rate increases. Not going to happen. You're paying for it at the grocery store with the cost of building materials, household goods, said Mike Kurchowski, the vice president of JKC Trucking, a 20-truck operation based in Illinois. Everyone can feel the high cost of oil and gas. And part of the reason that we didn't have this problem during Trump, did we? We were exporting oil. We had cheap oil, which meant for a strong economy. Part of this has to do with the policy of the Democrats. And they have said time and time again, this administration has said, we're not going to allow additional drilling. And that's part of the problem.
No more drilling. There is no more drilling. I haven't informed any new drilling. No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. We're going to be shutting these plants down all across America. No one's going to build a coal-fired plant again, and we're going to get rid of the ones we have now. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure? And
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
No new fracking. We are going to get rid of fossil fuels. Have a transition from the oil industry, yes.
So there you go. I mean, who's to blame for this? It's pretty clear. It's the Biden administration. And so, as you go to the gas station and you start filling up your gas tank and you realize, oh my gosh, this thing is costing me an arm and a leg here to fill up. Like, what happened? Well, the wholesale diesel price over the past 3 months has jumped 36%. Jet fuel has climbed almost 40%. Gasoline has risen 19%. The surge is challenging investors' bet that the Fed can pull off the so-called soft landing. Everything is at risk now because crude prices are going up, and they just can't continue to take it out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So, think about it. We've been through this before where the cost of gasoline, it does impact just about, everything that you get at the grocery store came in a truck, right? Everything. Everything that, that you want to buy in goods and in many services, they require gasoline to get there. The goods, the services, you need gasoline to get those trucks. Anything you order from Amazon, got to come on a truck. So, all of these things are coming together the way they did before. And I think that what I see here is on the horizon is a real serious situation where everything's going to start to cost more again, and inflation is going to rear its ugly head one more time. So, buckle up for that, because I'm telling you, nothing impacts the economy in a more direct way than an increase in energy prices. And that's what we've got going on now due to the boneheaded policies of the Biden administration. Completely boneheaded. They're doing everything wrong. They thought that they could get you through the midterm elections by, artificially driving down the price of gasoline by taking out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But now, you got to pay the piper. What is it? You pay the piper. The chickens are coming home to roost. That's what it is. Meanwhile, part of as long as we're talking about the trucking, we're getting more information about Yellow's downfall. Yellow, which is a trucking company based here in Nashville, a huge national U.S. trucking firm, has now officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. They did that on Sunday after the company buckled under the pressure from a mounting debt load as well as, they say, a standoff with the employees' union. It's with profound disappointment that Yellow announces it's closing after nearly 100 years in business, said Yellow's chief executive officer, Darren Hawkins. Today, it is not common for someone to work for one company 20, 30, or even 40 years. Yet many at Yellow did for generations. Yellow provided hundreds of thousands of Americans with solid, good-paying jobs and fulfilling careers. The Nashville, Tennessee-based nearly 100-year-old company's bankruptcy filing put it at about 30,000 workers at risk at a time when the freight industry is already grappling with slumping volumes. What I did read is that a lot of other companies that do trucking are picking up the slack pretty easily, and it's helping them. But Yellow, it sounds, is gone. Prior to its demise, that's the way you put it, Yellow is one of the largest U.S. trucking companies, held roughly 8 to 10% of the market share per brokerage, TD Cowen. They say they had union problems, they had serious problems, and they just couldn't work their way through them. So now the answer is Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection for Yellow, a great Tennessee-based company that just can't make it go anymore. I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, these oil prices are going up. Putting gasoline in your tank is becoming much more expensive. Doesn't seem like there's a solution to it except to go drill. And as we have already explored here, the Biden administration is not going to do any of that. So, I want you to know, I just want you to think about this. When you fill up your tank, we need to start putting those "he did it" stickers back up, because this is all absolutely 1,000%. This is the fault of the Biden administration. And even though it looked like we might be getting to a point where inflation was coming down. I don't think the gasoline prices are going to allow it to come down much further. And that means in the larger picture, if you're thinking that maybe you're going to see some lower interest rates anytime soon, not anytime soon. Not going to happen anytime soon. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Let's talk about United Structural Systems. Listen, we've had a lot of rain around here recently. And if you're finding that you have waterproofing issues or foundation issues, USS, United Structural Systems, is the company that give you peace of mind. You just give them a call. When you call this number, 615-488-7855, they're going to come out to your house. Now, they're not bound and determined to sell you something. They simply want to solve your problem. They're very, okay, here's the issue. Here's what you got. Here's what it takes to make it better. And if you decide to go forward, you wouldn't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. Good company. Don't listen to me. Listen to some of these other folks. Jerry says, the best crew I've ever had do work on our house. Best I've ever seen. Very professional, did an excellent job. Here is Constance. The entire crew professional and knowledgeable about their services. Put me at ease with the entire process. Listen, they can help you, and they're good people. They guarantee their best at USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. Or call this number, 615-488-7855.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Weather across the eastern portion of the United States causing flight delays. Tennessee schools coming back with new safety guidelines. A missing Tennessee person's body found in Kentucky. And a popular YouTuber dealing with a pretty pricey lawsuit. I'll have those stories and more at 6 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. Mitch McConnell did not have a particularly good weekend in Kentucky. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell's speech at the annual, I did not know about this, Fancy Farm Picnic in Kentucky over the weekend. He was met with heckles and jeers from the crowd.
I just told David Beck his introduction is longer than my speech. Elaine and I are really excited to be back at Fancy Farm on behalf of the strongest Republican team we've ever run in our state.
Now, one of the things you're going to say is, well, was this Republicans booing him, or was it somebody else? Well, this is apparently a political event. Also making an appearance there is the Democrat governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear. So it was a political event, and where people from both sides of the aisle were there. So there were Democrats in the audience. It's not clear whether it was the Democrats or the Republicans who were jeering Mitch McConnell, age 81, at his 28th appearance at the event. But it just didn't go well. He went ahead and gave his entire speech, which I think he knew needed to be short given the circumstances. But he never did get the crowd to quiet. 57 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, in times of market and economic volatility, we've been talking about some of that, gold and silver just might be the safe haven you're looking for. Hey, it's Brian Wilson for Nashville Gold and Coin. And if you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's the place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. They also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much some of those old coins you might have laying around might be worth? Well, I brought in a few silver coins I had in a shoebox, buried in my sock drawer, and it turned out to be worth $1,652. I couldn't believe it. Now, whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 87 degrees in Nashville. Forecast latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Weather in the eastern part of the U.S. wreaking havoc on air travel today. Here's Alex Stone.
Around 6,000 flights have been delayed in the U.S. today alone, and another nearly 1,400 canceled. Storms hitting from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. and New York, causing major air travel headaches. Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, the busiest in the world, is most heavily impacted, followed by Reagan National, LaGuardia, and Baltimore. Delta Airlines has the most canceled flights of any airport in the world.
And here in Tennessee, no active tornado alerts in effect. Staying in Tennessee, school's back in session. Back to school life has begun for many families, such as it did today in Rutherford and Cheatham counties, and they're bringing in some new school safety policies with the new year. Rutherford County schools will now require clear bags. No backpacks or purses will be allowed unless the items go into that clear bag. In Cheatham County, any visitor wishing to enter the building will now have to show a form of identification and answer some questions from the front office. If you want to pick your child up in Cheatham County, you'll have to wait outside. And if you want to drop something off for your child or have lunch with them, the front office will have to know in advance. And along with that, in Cheatham County, students will not be allowed to carry their backpacks from class to class. In Ohio, voters will decide tomorrow whether to make it tougher to amend the state's constitution. If it passes, it could impact the state's abortion laws. Ann Flaherty in Washington.
It's a crucial vote in the Buckeye state of Ohio. Republicans want voters to agree that changing its state constitution should require 60% support instead of a simple majority. If the measure passes, it will make it much harder for Democrats to amend the state's constitution this fall to guarantee a right to abortion. The effort is part of a broader initiative by Republicans to keep liberal, citizen-led proposals off state ballots.
And back in the volunteer state, Channel 4 says that the remains of a missing Putnam County man were found in Kentucky yesterday. Daniel Stephen Mabry was reported missing back in April and was found yesterday in Louisville. An autopsy report now being conducted. And super popular YouTube content creator Mr. Beast being sued for $100 million over a burger. Jason Nathanson.
Mr. Beast is known for his wild stunts and challenges.
We are now stranded on a raft in the middle of the ocean.
174 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. And a few years ago, he leveraged that popularity into Mr. Beast burgers. The reviews were not great.
This burger it's not good at all.
Mr. Beast, real name Jimmy Donaldson, then trashed his own burger business online and sued to get out of the contract with backers Virtual Dining Concepts. VDC now suing Donaldson, saying his bad-mouthing caused damages in the $100 million range, and Mr. Beast is in breach of contract.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I know people out on I-65 north of Nashville are just hating life right now. Just hating life. It's bad. And we have a fuel tanker that overturned. I found out it was a fuel tanker. And it's upside down in a bar ditch, and they have decided to close off both directions there for a while. And so it's just very slow.
Yeah, just looking at the TDOT map, and like you said, they have opened the southbound lanes of traffic, and things have definitely thinned out there. Northbound still pretty much jammed up all the way from, like almost Briley Parkway, Old Hickory Boulevard northbound. Just really slow. A lot of volume trying to shoehorn its way through on the secondaries and just crawling up there. So you're still going to need patience if you're heading north from Nashville.
Well, okay, so there you have it, folks, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but better to know it and to plan for it than to not know it and just stumble into it. Don't you think? I think you want to know. So that's my theory. All right, let's talk about a lot of things that I'm going to go through a whole bunch of different stories here, some ground I want to cover in this next half hour or so. Number one, the question about Trump and whether or not he will actually attend the GOP debate on August 23rd. I think he's certified insane if he shows up. He has no need to show up. But let's just go through it and see what he thinks about it. Speaking this weekend.
Every time they file an indictment, we go way up in the polls. We need one more indictment to close out this election. One more indictment, and this election is closed out. Nobody has even a chance. We've already defeated the Republicans. They're at 2 and 3 and 1. They all want me to go, onto the debate stage. And I say, well, if we're at 71 and they're at 0, 1, 2, 3, some of them are at 4 or 5. I don't know. Does it really make a lot of sense? It doesn't really. I love to debate, but sometimes you don't want to be a fool. You want a smart president. You don't want a stupid president.
Well, first of all, I can't find the poll where he's leading by 70 with 71% of the vote. It may be a state poll, but I haven't found it yet. But he is doing quite well. Well, why don't we just, Brian, you say, why don't we just check that out and see where we are today? I'm going to pull up the numbers from realclearpolitics.com, and they have all of the polls. Now, again, this is a national poll of Republican nominees, and they don't mean much. We select our presidents by going by state. So you can front load all your money. Let's say if you're not leading, you can put a lot of money into a place like Iowa or New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and you could maybe have an impact. But just looking at where Republicans are as a whole, Trump would be insane to show up on that debate stage. He doesn't need it. Now, I'm going to give you just the average numbers because Real Clear Politics takes all of the numbers and averages them, and that's generally pretty close to where you are. Trump is leading DeSantis by 38 points. I mean, how do you, overcoming 5, 6, 10, even 15 points, not unheard of, but 38 points? That's on average, and some people have it much higher than that. Morning Consult has Trump leading DeSantis by 43. So Trump 53.7, DeSantis 15.7, Ramaswamy 6, Pence 5.1, Haley 3.6, Tim Scott it would be 2.9, Christie 2.3, Asa Hutchinson 0.9, Burgum 0.5, Hurd 0.3. So again, I have to say I think the president had it right. Every time he gets indicted, his numbers go up, and he's not that far from particularly. I think he pretty much got the Republican nomination wrapped up. Maybe something will happen that changes that, but I don't see what it is. I really don't. because as he said, the more they throw at me, the stronger my numbers become. Doesn't care. Doesn't seem to be worried about that at all. So, again, he will. I don't think he will, but boy, is Fox really pushing him hard to come on that debate stage. My old buddy Neil Cavuto, thinking of the big debate coming up, and I'm not saying this to sell the debate. It's a great debate. It would be great if the president and all the candidates could make it. But if you're Donald Trump and this is all everyone is talking about, you own all the oxygen in the room, wouldn't you want to be in that room? I don't know. That was last Thursday. They would love it. I mean, Brett Baer and Martha McCallum are going to do a great job with this debate on the 23rd. But it's like the dwarves, you know. It's like the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You know, Donald Trump is not going to be there, and everybody else are just people who are just barely scratching the surface and interest by the electorate. Mr. Trump is the main crowd puller, giving his large audience turnout at rallies across the country, and his absence would be a significant dampener for the network. He hasn't totally made his decision, he says, but I listen, here's my recommendation. If anybody cares, here's the Brian Wilson idea. Mr. Trump, do not show up for the debate. Mr. Trump, ride that lead that you have all the way through the primaries, become the Republican nominee, and then start swinging. But just ride this out. You will do better, I think, right now, by saying little and not showing up for these debates. Now, you may lose a percentage point here or there, but you're not going to lose 38 points. All right? You're still going to be fine. So I think that would be the way I would look at it if I were advising the former president, but I'm not. In other news, former Kamala Harris staffer says the VP is unpopular in the polls because she's a black woman and a history maker. All right. A June poll found that Harris's approval rating sunk to the lowest for any vice president in the poll's history. During a roundtable discussion on CNN, ex-Trump aide and The View co-host Alyssa Farrar Griffin made the case that Harris could be a political liability with swing voters and that putting her in front and center in the campaign might be a mistake for the Biden-Harris ticket, considering her abysmal approval rating. The conversation was centered around attempts by Republican primary candidates to make Harris the focus of the attacks, highlighting Biden's age and the possibility of a President Harris, oh God, if he is reelected. CNN commentator Alice Stewart said that Harris is taking heat from GOP candidates because she is choosing to attack Republicans instead of talking about her own failures. Yes, the president is old, and Kamala Harris is the heir apparent, potentially if he were to step aside. But look where this began. The vice president was given a very impressive portfolio to deal with the border crisis and the election reform. She failed on both counts. She has not done her job. She's not a popular vice president. So instead of talking about her failures, she's attacking Republicans, and they're simply responding. She has appointed herself the attack dog, and she's getting hit back. I don't know. Maybe some of that is true. She's unpopular, though. Should I just, for snicks and grins, pull up I can pull that up, too. I have a computer, and I'm not afraid to use it. If it were to be Trump, if it were to be a rundown, a general election matchup between Trump and Harris, it would be Trump winning by 3.7%. And there seems to be a little doubt about that. I'm trying to find her approval ratings. I can't get at them real quick. But anyway, she's not doing well. Lowest approval ratings in the history of any modern era vice president, Kamala Harris. It's not because she's a black woman. It's not because she's a history maker. It's because she's just not very good at what she does. And anybody wants to tell you different really doesn't have a good bead on the thing. Will Elon Musk foot legal bills for those in trouble with their employers over things that they have posted online. Elon Musk has offered legal aid for users on X, which was once Twitter, who are treated unfairly or who were treated unfairly by employers as a result of their posts. If you were unfairly treated by your employer due to a posting or a liking of something on this platform, we will fund your legal bill. That's what Musk posted on Saturday. No limit. Please let us know. Wow, that's pretty cool. One of the people who first raised her hand was Gina Carano, who I like a great deal, but who was dismissed from The Mandalorian over at the Disney Channel because she had put some things on Twitter that her employer did not like. And so she raised her hand and says, "Hey, I think I might be a good person to talk to." Musk is one of the richest people in the world, but even his deep pockets could take a hit from the declaration. Many people have faced punishment for their digital actions. The cases we hear about likely represent the tip of the proverbial iceberg. And one of the most prominent victims of social media culture quickly weighed in on the matter, Gina Carano. I think I qualify. I would like to see Musk do something like that. What he's trying to say is free speech is free speech, and you should not be fired from your job for things that you put out on Twitter. And Musk is now saying he's willing to foot the legal bills. Now, Musk says a lot of things, and some of them come to fruition, and some of them do not. But I would like to see that come to fruition. I think that would be great. I think that would be just fantastic. I have been wondering this. I did not know why, but I noticed that I thought the other day, I haven't seen Peter Doocy on Fox in quite a while, and it's because he's been on paternity leave to take care of his new infant daughter, Bridget. He returned Monday after spending time. Fox News congressional correspondent Hillary Vaughn returned to work as well. They welcomed their daughter in February, so I think they split their paternity time. We'll see how that all worked out. But White House correspondent gushingly talked about being a father. I tell you, Peter Doocy is a good guy. I got to know Peter a little bit. I wouldn't say close friends with Peter. I've known his dad a much longer period of time. But Peter, in my estimation, has really taken the opportunity that was given to him and made the very most out of it. Understanding when he came in the door as, son of Steve, that people were going to be looking at him as well. You got this job but he really was humble. He put his nose to the ground. He did it. He did the hard work, and he really has, I think, distinguished himself as one of the best White House correspondents that we've seen in some time. So, congratulations to Steve Doocy and Hillary Vaughn on the arrival of Bridget. Very happy for you. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. I'm not making this up. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price. That's right, the vault is open and Genesis is selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock-bottom prices now for a very limited time. The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy, and documenting quality so you can buy with confidence. Every Genesis engagement ring is included in this event, from half-carat up to 20-carat stones, all shapes, rounds, radiants, pears, shapes, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals. There's never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA-certified diamond perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for the best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Extravaganza. Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings now for a limited time. One per customer, please, exclusively at Genesis Diamonds. 2 locations, Green Hills, Cool Springs. See the store for details. It's 25 minutes, 26 minutes. How much, Chris, just give me a guesstimate. How much time have I got here?
What do you mean? You got 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. I want to make sure that I had time to get into this. Mark Milley. General Mark Milley is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He is his term is running out. You get a 4-year run as chairman of the Joint, and he is that ends in October. And so he's starting to, do the long, slow goodbye and doing interviews, exit interviews, and there's a fascinating article in the Washington Times where they did an interview with him, and they decided to go after the issue that captures our attention from time to time. Because as I've often said, the truth is out there. Oh, caught you off guard, didn't I?
I wasn't ready for it.
You wasn't ready for me. The truth is out there. There's been all this testimony about, the aliens and recovered vehicles. And it was given by a guy named Grush under oath. And he did not go after the credibility of Mr. Grush. He said the guy was under oath. I'm sure that he was trying to say whatever he thought was true. I'm not going to doubt his testimony or anything like that. But I have not seen anything that indicates that there are quote-unquote aliens or that there's some kind of cover-up program. I just haven't seen it. Okay, so he doesn't buy into the aliens in the basement or the aliens in Area 51 or the recovered, UFOs or UAPs. But he does confirm a lot of stuff, and this is interesting. There is a lot of unexplained aerial phenomena out there. That's true. They've got pilot reports. They've got various other sensors out there, and some of it is difficult to explain. Most of it, actually, they can explain away with a bunch of things like balloons, for example. The whole Chinese balloon thing comes to mind. And then they go into talk about, well, this can explain a lot of it, but there's some out there that are really just kind of weird and unexplainable. This is the man who is leads our military, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. There are some things out there that are weird and unexplainable. Now, I've seen nothing to suggest that we, the United States military or the United States government, has in fact recovered any sort of vehicle that is not man-made or there's any kind of remains. I haven't seen any kind of that stuff, but he would not second-guess Mr. Grush's public testimony before a House Oversight Committee recently. Let me just say, okay, that's fine. But what he does go into explain is that there are things out there that they just don't understand. This is why I think it's so important to get to the bottom of this. From a national security standpoint, understand this. We have things flying through our most secure airspaces that we can't touch. They can do it with impunity. It's not thought to be the Russians. It's not thought to be the Chinese. And we've had people say, credible people say, that it's not coming from us. But the bottom line is something is out there that can do things that our aircraft cannot. And the general sense is, well, if they were going to hurt us, they would have hurt us by now because, we can't outrun them. We can't outgun them. We don't even know what they are. But the one thing is, he confirms there are things out there that we simply cannot explain and we do not understand. And, if you want it from the highest ranking official in the military, right now, that would be General Mark Milley. It comes from the very top at the Pentagon. We don't understand it, and we don't know what it is. 6:30 now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let me tell you about the Nashville Armory Ranges. Now, if you don't know, 2 locations for your convenience. The first, the Nashville Armory, is at 4290 Kenilwood Drive in Nashville. Over 15,000 square feet, which combines retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistol and rifle-rated ranges so you can learn, you can become proficient, and you can stay that way. The second location is the Franklin Range at 390 South Winds Drive. There you'll find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target control, custom shooting stalls that provide a virtually private shooting experience. And the folks that work there, well, top of the notch people. They pride themselves on hiring folks who have the expertise to advise even the most experienced shooters, but they also have the patience to guide those who are new to the 2A world. You're not going to find attitude. You're not going to find pressure. You're just going to find people who are helpful. Gunsmithing back at the Nashville Range. If you're buying your first gun or adding, you'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, apparel, and shooting accessories. This is a place where you can buy. It's a place where, of course, you can train. And it's a place where you can become a very good shot. To learn more, just go to armoryranges.com and let them know your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Last few minutes before we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one at 7:05 or so. Earlier today, we had a conversation with Scott Golton, chairman of the Tennessee Republican Party, because the Tennessee Republican Executive Committee has sent a note to the governor saying, you know what, we don't think it's a good idea to have this special session. Here is that conversation with Scott Golton from earlier today. A pretty strong little shot across the bow of the governor suggesting that perhaps we not have that session. You were there when this all happened, right?
Oh, yeah. There was a resolution brought up from several members of our committee, brought up under new business. Everybody said, hey, we need to, express our opinion of what's happening. And I will say this goes back a little ways for our committee. I mean, after the tragedy at Covenant happened, at the end of the last legislative session, our state executive committee was meeting, and we passed a resolution then that we would, love to see, we encourage the release of the manifesto,
right,
of the Covington shooter. So, right, that was kind of step number one. Let's if we're going to talk about legislation, let's get all the facts straight, right? And then in the intervening period of time, of course, there's been reporting that there are going to be several different liberal groups that are looking to Tennessee to send people from out of state that are here, that are going to be, what we saw in 2020 with the defund the police riots and everything. So we know that there are liberal groups organizing there. And then, and finally, I just, we don't know yet what is going to be in the session. It's, it's 2 weeks away. So you sort of couple all that together. You get our board members sort of saying, hey, maybe this isn't the best time if we don't know what we're going into, and we know we've got some bad actors coming in, and we don't even have the information of where all of this sort of originated. Maybe we should hold off and wait till the legislative session to get some things accomplished.
Well,
now, that being
what was the reaction when this happened on? I guess it was Saturday, right?
It was Saturday. Yeah, we were. There were several members, and again, you have to. All of our members are elected in state senate districts, right? So their districts are the same as state senate. They've been out at Reagan Day dinners, Lincoln Day dinners over the summer since the end of session. They've seen all their legislators, and everybody's kind of asking questions. So I mean, look, I do think that the governor is going to come out with whatever his proposals are. I personally haven't seen them, so I don't know exactly what we're talking about, but I think that's again, we do know some things, and there are different Republican parties across the state that have expressed their displeasure in the red flag type legislation that might be out there. Again, we don't yet know what's going to be in there, so I'm hopeful that when the full breadth of what might potentially be in a special session, maybe there's going to be some great conservative things in there, but as we sit right now and Saturday at the committee, it was knowing all of these things that go into it. I think the committee just overwhelmingly felt that maybe not now having a special session is not the best time.
I read this article in the Chattanooga Times, and it quoted Tina Benckiser, is that the way you would say it, of Signal Mountain?
Tina Benckiser. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Let me just read some of what she had to say, because I find myself in complete agreement with it. I think Tennesseans are not only proud but understand the Second Amendment. They are proud and agree with the Constitution of the United States. I feel at this point a lot of this is really emotion as opposed to rational and reasoned. My concern, and a lot of others' concern, is that some of the proposals we heard really violate due process of law, and that's a fundamental concern. And when you start talking about potentially infringing on people's constitutional rights, that needs to be thought out over a long period of time. I understand, this is where I find myself complete agreement. I understand that people sometimes act out of emotion when something horrendous has happened, as happened in Nashville, but also to friends of the governor's. I understand that. And I think the natural reaction is you want to do something, and you want to do something now. But like I said, when you're talking about constitutional rights at the end of the day, you need to take the time to think that out. I could not agree with that anything more, because, government, if you get government together, they feel like, well, we have to do something. Well, I'm not sure we do have to do something without knowing what's in that manifesto. And we're not going to see that, according to John Harris over at TFA. We may not see that for 3 years.
And Tina comes at it. Look, Tina's a great member. Her background is that she teaches constitutional law, and she's the former chairman of the Texas Republican Party. So she knows what she speaks of. And yeah, I mean, I think, Brian, we all agree that, in the immediate aftermath, this is kind of what led to some of the outbursts of the Justin Joneses, right? I mean, this is right. That was all emotion at that period of time, and I think everybody agrees. We all want to protect our kids as best we can, but let's figure out what we're doing and moving in there. And look, I've not been a part of the conversation, so I know that there our legislators, all of our Republican representatives are working. So maybe there are some great things out there that I'm just not aware of. But I know that, obviously the special session we're looking at starting in 2 weeks. And so hopefully, this information will start coming out and people can feel more comfortable if there's something that can be achieved. And if not, then, obviously we're going to be back in session in January. So, those meetings are already happening with a lot of our legislators getting ready for the January session.
And that's my larger point. Since the governor's not going to get his legislation, I've talked to a lot of state legislators, and his version of a red flag law is simply not going to pass. He's not going to get it. It's not going to happen. And anything else that you might do, there would be no harm, no foul in waiting perhaps until January to do it when the session comes back into what would be wrong with that?
Yeah, I think, look, it's certainly up to the governor and the legislators. And again, I think what our committee, where we were coming down is that when you start seeing all the things stack up, you just don't know what we're getting. And I do think that they're ironing all of these issues out. And so maybe we will know a little something, is sooner rather than later. But I think for our members, they're hearing the same thing. They're talking to their legislators as well. And they're kind of hearing, well, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm not. Again, a lot of conversations behind closed doors. But I do think the overarching thing is we're really concerned about who's gearing up for, who's going to be protesting out on Legislative Plaza and all of these things. And I hope it's not that way, but again, I think Tina hit on it that, obviously their side is going to put as much emotion into this as possible.
You got Justin Jones coming back. You got Pearson coming back. And we know that there have been actual sessions where these professional protesters who travel from town to town have been meeting and discussing how they want to come and mess up this special session of the state legislature. And some of them, there was actually a soundbite. I could dig it back up given enough time, where somebody said, look, if you feel like, that you're somebody who wants to do security, we have people, they got weapons. Isn't that funny? We got people who can take care of that. And they'll they won't be involved in the frontline protesting, but they'll be there. They're going to send people with guns, which is hysterical since the Democrats would like it to be about limiting guns.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned to me the other day that it would be the only legislative session in session across the country. So that all the other states are done legislating for the years, but this would be the only one. So there would be a lot of attention focused on it. And certainly we've had that. You're right. With the Justins, they are, clearly they're in charge of the Democrat Party these days. So, where Justin Jones is where the modern day Tennessee Democrat Party is. And he was one of the main, obviously, ringleaders during the 2020,
absolutely,
whatever it was, the march that turned to the courthouse getting burned down or getting set on fire. So, I think all those things taken into consideration, I think that's just where the committee came down and said, maybe this isn't, all of these things setting up. Maybe let's just, spend a little more time, and we're going to be back in session in 4 months anyway. So if that was an option, I think that's what our board of the Tennessee Republican Party wanted to express.
Well, Scott, you're the chairman of the Republican Party in the state of Tennessee. Have you had any reaction from the governor's office?
No. I think, again, as I have heard, they are sort of preparing what they're going to be releasing. And so the good news is that I know that they're working on it. And so they're gonna put their plan out, and I'm hopeful that there are some things that are out there that we can pass to help to curb some of the crime issues and this is, I know we're here in Nashville, but Memphis is experiencing a record number of carjackings per day, so there are crime issues across this state that this would be a great opportunity if the package is there and things that the Republicans can get around for. This would be a great opportunity to make sure that keeping our citizens safe. I just think it's got to be released, and I know that they're working on it. So that's the only thing that I hear is stay tuned. There is going to be some good things, but perhaps in there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think the concern right now is just what type of environment and, kind of where our legislators are ultimately going to be.
All right. That was Scott Golden, the chairman of the Tennessee Republican Party. It is now 49 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. If you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltzco are the two guys you just absolutely need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That's the Stoltzco difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. I mean, they can function as a classic tool or work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They do not cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So, listen, this is what you've got to do. Go to their website, stoltzco.com. That's STOLTZCO.com. Take a look at what they've got on display. They show you, when you look at it, you're going to say, this ain't my grandpappy's pole barn. This is something new. This is something better. Give them a call, 615-622-5992. Stoltzco, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. Again, that number, 615-622-5992. Learn more at stoltzco.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Well, that wraps it up for me. Thank you so much for being a part of the drive here on this Monday, the 7th day of August. Coming up next after the news is Mark Levin, the great one. And I know that you will enjoy listening to what he has to say. He's been on fire lately. Good stuff. Again, we thank you so much. I'll be back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock for another exciting edition of The Drive. And I hope that you'll join us right at here at 3 o'clock. And we'll take you all the way to dinner time. In the meantime, let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You hear me talk about these folks all the time because I'm a big believer in what they do. They can help you. I had pain in my back and my neck, and I went to this non-surgical spinal decompression, got a bunch of treatments, and I feel so much better. If you have been having pain in your back or your neck, or your arms or your legs, this non-surgical spinal decompression, pretty good stuff. You might want to consider it. Start with a phone call, 615-246-5009. If you are a new customer, you get exposure to the special, the 2023 special, an exam, a consultation, x-rays if needed. If you can bring in an MRI, if you have one, that's fine. They'll take a look at it. Dr. Mitchell will go over all of your conditions and then get you started on a plan to feel better. 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009. As always, learn more by going to the website, painisbad.com.